How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is XTR, and today we'll be giving you the best ability combos that we could come up with. Valorant's got a lot of abilities stowed away in its hero pool, so we're here to give you the best combinations so you can start winning those hard to win rounds with your teammates. But before we get started, our question of the day is, what do you think the Valorant rank will be equivalent to in ranked gameplay from other games? Face it level 10, Global Elite, maybe Diamond in Rainbow Six, or Grandmaster, or top 500 in Overwatch? Personally, I think it'd be more equivalent to somewhere in the Face It level 10 range, as we have so many communities coming together in this game, and this game is most similar to Counter-Strike in many regards. So leave your thoughts about that in the comments. Keep in mind that before watching this video, you can always head over to ProGuides.com, and we will offer coaches for Valorant and pretty much every other competitive game you can think about. Have you ever used your Sage solo and know that there are people trapped in it, yet you can't secure the kill without exposing yourself greatly? Or maybe you're unable to do anything after you flashbang someone with Phoenix. That's where we come in to give you some avenues of approach you can take to do more with the abilities at your disposal. What I mean by that is you can effectively use your abilities in cohesion to get some pretty solid and safe plays. Just be aware that you are expending utility whilst you are using these combinations that you may need later in the round. But the trade-off you can potentially gain has the ability to outweigh the utility you are spending in these situations. Just be aware of what utility you are using and be smart about the way you decide to use it. Now our first ability combos bring us to Sage. Sage has some insane combo potential with the usage of her slow orb or even using her walls. By throwing a slow orb and listening for the crunch of somebody running around on it, you can confirm the presence of an opponent and follow it up with a damaging ability, such as Raze's paint cans or Phoenix's hot hands. And pretty much anything that can cause damage can be useful once you hear the crunch. The enemies won't be able to escape most of the times, and you are able to throw your utility in the direction of the sounds they are making. If you decide to combo this with an initiator such as Phoenix or Breach, you can land some pretty nasty kills because they are pretty much defenseless. Now Sage's Ice Wall doesn't have the most combo potential in the world, but we're going to talk about some of the possible ways you can use it lethally. If you put her wall in the right position while they are pushing, and they are distracted breaking through said wall, you can boost over it with the Raze pack, and she can use her Showstopper ability while they are clumped up and distracted by the wall. Make sure you listen to the wall, and if you hear them pounding away at it with their knives, throw grenades or Molotovs at them, not only to stop them, but potentially to get you a kill. Note that throwing grenades next to the wall will most likely break it, but I personally think in this situation that it's a pretty solid call. If you are playing Sova, you can also shoot arrows behind the wall with little to no risk to your health whatsoever. Now Cypher has some of the best combo potential in this game, so let's talk about him. Cypher's tripwires and cages are extremely useful in shutting down pushes and encountering flanks, so use these wisely. There are many things you can use his tripwires for, and if you'd like to use them in a more lethal fashion as opposed to shutting down flanks and securing intel, you can place them at the choke and have your teammate playing safely waiting for the potential trip of the wire. Teammates will have to be pretty quick here though. You don't want them to wait too long or their window of opportunity will close. The best way to capitalize would be the usage of Raze's ultimate, paint cans, or Sova's shock arrow, as there is a lot of potential splash damage. You want to maximize your damage when they are clumped up like this, so try and use area of effect ability so you can maximize the effect of your ability combo. Another very useful thing you can do with his wires is having a cage pre-placed under his tripwire. A small disclaimer to this would be the fact they can pretty easily spot out his cage as it's just hanging out on the ground, so they may be cautious while approaching. You could always wait for them to get a little closer, but you will have to put yourself in a more unfavorable position to lay down the cage over the wire. So I'd recommend just putting the cage down on the wire. If they happen to trip your tripwire, you can easily use your cage and they will be stuck inside of it, giving you many options for how you can proceed from there. Even simply spamming the cage can work well in your favor, as you'll be able to see exactly where they are at for a brief period of time. Now Sova's recon arrows are extremely devious if used correctly. Yes, you can use it to get information to see if they are pushing, but use it in synergy with Phoenix's run it back ability can lead to a deadly combo of sheer aggression. If you use his recon arrow and spot people, Phoenix can use his ultimate and he will have the advantage of knowing exactly where his opponents are, allowing him to swiftly run in and be confident with the angles he will be pre-aiming. Not only can you use this, but anything that does damage or even stuns can be very powerful as you know exactly where to aim. If you use Sova's recon bolt and followed up with a breach stun, you can get your whole team through a choke if executed correctly, securing you quick kills at minimal risk to your team. Now, while we're on the topic of initiators, let's talk about Phoenix and his curveball. A very underutilized aspect of Phoenix's curveball is his ability to effectively use it in team scenarios. Not everyone is guilty of this, but I see players using the flashbangs only for themselves. These flashbangs are extremely useful in pushing as a team and comboing not only abilities, but coordinating a very powerful push with the team. You can flash for your team and they can get the extra time needed to potentially throw some of their utility, such as grenades or molotovs, with much less risk of actually getting peeked by the opposing force. And while pushing, you can flash onto the site and potentially blind a part of the site. Note to yourself that all the initiators, such as Phoenix and Breach, have a very high potential of comboing with the team, and it is one of the ways they are most impactfully played. Using his curveball with Sova's recon arrow is also very strong. If the opposing team is shift walking into somewhere, you won't be able to actually know where they are 100% of the times. But if you use the recon arrow, you can spot them out and then throw a curveball once you get the information. This moves us on to more passive abilities in this game. We're going to go over Brimstone and his smokes because they are easily one of the most effective pieces of utility in this game, and they have many uses other than the basic use of smoking a particular choke point. One of these very niche uses would be the combo of using a sky smoke with Cypher's tripwires. Yes, these smokes are very good to cut off a choke, but players will often push through them. Sure, you can just wait outside the Brimstone smoke in case they actually decide to push through on you, but if you decide to put the wire down, it will expose them even if they decide to just push into the smoke and wait. You can get a very free kill from doing this method, and if they don't push into it, you can always have the Cypher come pick up his tripwire if it's not needed in that location. Now this moves us on to Brimstone's younger brother Breach. Pretty much all of Breach's abilities can have a very strong potential when used with your teammates' abilities. One of these particularly strong combinations would be the uses of Breach's flashpoint ability and Cypher's camera. You can gather intel and tag an enemy player with Cypher's camera. Once the Breach is able to see the tag, he can use his flashbang through the wall to fully blind the tagged player, and you can capitalize if they are in a more exposed position than they would like to be. You can also use Cypher's camera with Breach's Rolling Thunder ability. If you see a large number of enemies approaching towards a choke point, you could communicate with your Breach to get him to use his ultimate, knocking all the opponents into the air and helping your team secure a safe and coordinated strike. This intel initiator combination is very powerful. If you decide to get intel from one of your teammates and then use that intel to then initiate, it is so much stronger than just initiating in blind. If you just decide to initiate a team push with a simple flashbang, they can easily turn away, and a lot of the times you'll be walking blind straight into a meat grinder. But combining the intel into your flashbang oriented push will give you the information you need that will tell you exactly where to place your flashbang and where you will need to be worried about whilst you are pushing onto the bomb site. This combination of abilities will be very useful at higher levels of play where communication is key and enemies are expecting a more simple push from you. But if your teammates are down for it, it can be used at any rank very effectively. Now we're going to go over Viper, and this is going to be different from the rest of the ability combos as it's more of a passive way to actually use the abilities. Nonetheless, it can still be very useful if executed correctly and safely. There are lineups you can learn to make this combination safer, but for now we're going to talk about things at the base level so you can all replicate it and learn how to use it in your own gameplay properly. Using your poison clouds is very useful for shutting down chokes, we know this, but it's also extremely effective at blocking off commonly played positions so you are able to effectively push through certain areas safely. Using this alongside Phoenix's Blaze Wall can help you get through certain areas with much lower risk than running in dry or using just one of these abilities. If you know what an execute is in Counter-Strike, it's basically doing that just at a much simpler scale because all you are using is just two abilities to block off very large parts of the bomb site. An example of doing this would be on B site on the map Split. While pushing towards the site, you will run into the problem of opponents staring down the main corridor with crosshairs trained at your head. By using Phoenix's wall, you can block off the right side whilst walking out the corridor, and use Viper's Poison Cloud to block off the main pillar and back of sight to effectively gain sight control and block out the enemy's lines of sight. Hence why learning lineups is useful. Just be aware in certain scenarios like this, you are gaining sight control for the most part, but once the utility fades, you are going to have to deal with what lies in wait behind the wall of abilities you created on your way in. Be conscious and smart once the abilities wear off, and make sure you are in a powerful position to actually get kills. Hopefully now, after hearing about how powerful these abilities can be when used with each other, you have gained the knowledge you need to put these into practice in your own games. Remember that using abilities in combination can be much stronger than when they are used on their own, but you are also using twice as many abilities, so recognize analyze the risk versus reward and the economical cost of using these abilities. If it's not worth the abilities you will be using, refrain from doing so, and don't use these abilities to take unnecessary risks that will leave you dead. Abilities are everything in Valorant, and they should be treated as a very important economical factor in every single round you play. This brings us to the end of our video. Make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss one of our uploads. Let us know in the comments anything you would like us to cover. We want to keep bringing you the content you need to help you get better at this game, especially with ranked coming. The closed beta is the perfect time for you to hone your skills in Valorant. Have an outstanding day, and don't forget to practice good hygiene.